Say what you gotta say the first time, not the next time. Hey yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Corey J, and it's time for another episode of To Be Frank, the podcast. I'm real excited about today's guest. He's a OG for real, a OG. He my round all the way around. This guy here, I think we have the same, gotta have the same energy levels. This man wears so many hats. I might as well just open a hat store just for him. That's how much he hold it down. So I ain't gonna keep y'all in suspense any much longer. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the one, the only, the man himself, Dr. Ewell Netter.
Blessings, my brother, my boy Yee.
What's
How are
up?
you doing, man?
Man, I'm wonderful, bro. How about you?
I am grateful.
Come
I
on.
am grateful. That
Come
is
on.
the word.
Come on.
Grateful.
That Hezekiah Walker grateful or that just grateful altogether, bro?
Ooh, not
Ooh,
that Hezekiah. That Hezekiah Walker grateful.
come on. I had to bring you back, all the way back. That's that stored up greatness that just
That's
woo, just
that,
come
that's
rushing like a flood.
flowing from my heart grateful.
So, so on behalf of the To Be Frank fam, we want to welcome you once again for joining us today. We real excited to have you, bro. Like you are filled with knowledge, nuggets, and just character that's just unmatched. So major salute to you for being with us today. So
Thank you.
today's topic or theme rather, I always got this random themes, y'all. He got the juice. And he really do have the juice. Like you is the man. Dr. Yu is the man. He is the founder of His Insecurities. He's the author of a number of books. He's a musician. He a dance man. He a grill master. I mean,
Come
I'll go
on.
all day. That boy be grilling, y'all. That man be grilling. Don't play with him. Don't play with him. When he grilling, it's a whole nother situation. It's not what you want. It's not what you want. So, bro, I'll let you go ahead and give everybody a brief introduction about yourself, and then we're gonna start chopping it up.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Greetings, everyone. I am Dr. Ewell Netter. I Corey gave you some of it. I'm a founder of His Insecurities, which is a male group that is started, and it is actually a community of brothers collectively coming together, navigating and dealing with health and life collectively. I am an author. I do Christian hip hop. I've had more than 10 projects that have been released and are currently out. I am a author of two books, creating one now called The Distraction of Fear. I have done blogs. I currently do a podcast called Don't Take Wood Nickels. I'm also the CEO of J. Crew Collections, which is a hub, music, entertainment wise, and fashion for believers. It's called J. Crew, which is a spin off of J is for Jesus. Crew is Louisiana, so it's with a Krewe, and it's really just an urban Louisiana way of calling yourself a follower of Christ. And so those things are done all to lift up the name of God. I am also a pastor. I have my doctorate in biblical psychology. I have a master's and bachelor's in religious studies. So I have some things behind my name, but more importantly than them all, I prefer to be called Brother Ewell. That's the one that really does encourage me.
Come on, you heard it first, y'all. Hats on top of hats. Brother of all brothers, the
Thank you,
Mr.
thank you,
Brotherhood himself.
thank you.
So, bro, let's start off with character. That's the first topic that I want to talk about. Um, when it comes down to the balance between personality and character, what would you say is the key difference between the two as a man?
That's a really good one. Character is who you are when people aren't watching. Your personality
Mm,
can be uh things that you have build based on experience, life, childhood. But your personality doesn't necessarily equate your character. Your personality is who you are. For example, my personality, I'm outgoing for
mm,
most people. I'm optimistic. That's my personality. I can be reserved at times because I'm a thinker and I like to analyze before I communicate with people. That's a part of my personality. But my
yeah.
character is who I display when I'm not in front of everyone. My character is one of a man of integrity and honor. Even if it hurts me, I'm going to honor and operate with integrity. It's one in which I love to reason with people. I'm a
Mm,
lover of people. That's a part of my character. So you will
right.
see those even though you may not see my personality.
Gotcha. So let's go in deeper. How would you assist a male that's having trouble separating personality and character?
Great question. So with personality and character, it always directs us back to identity. So you got to know who you
Mm,
are, right? Before you can
right.
even address those two things. Because you can make your character or your personality based on what you believe you are. If my identity um is at conflict and I don't know who I am, then I can't truly describe my character or my personality. I can tell you who I feel, I can tell you what I
Mm,
think about myself, right? But
right.
and who I am in at that moment, but I cannot if I cannot identify truly with who I am, then my character will always be misinformed. My
Mm,
personality will have some traits that you can see, but character will be misinformed.
oof, that was good. That was really, really good. So, bro, what is the biggest challenge you feel men are facing right now in today's society?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. So there's different nuances to it. So it's not just one thing, but
Okay.
I would definitely say that the thing that stirs my heart right now is definitely the biggest challenge man face right now is their identity and
Mm,
tying that to purpose. Most men believe their purpose is only producing. We uh l- have been basically, I'm trying to find a word in here, but we basically been minimized. That's the word for it. Minimized to just doing. We've been minimized to paychecks. We've been
mm,
minimized to
that's good.
being voiceless and emotionless
Come
in
on.
order to produce. And so the biggest concern for me is men not understanding their value based on society telling us who we are and what we are a bit as opposed to who God says we are. When it comes to community like situations like that, in any conversation I have with someone, I'm always going to go to the creator. My personal stance, my
Mhm.
personal belief and what I stand on is Bible, right? So I
Right.
look to my purpose, my identity to what God has said and not necessarily what creation has said because creation can change who I am based on how they feel.
That's
So I
good.
love
That's
to go to purpose based on what the creator has stated my purpose is. What did the creator state the creation purpose was, and not what the creation is stating what purpose is? And so for me, I always tell men to identify themselves with what the creator says you are as opposed to what creation say you are, because creation is fickle. It will give you a purpose one day and then change that purpose the next day. So right now, creation is telling us as men that we are just paychecks. We don't have our emotions.
Come on.
If we do display our emotions, then at that point they equate that to sexuality. Um, they inform us that how to eat, how to talk, what to talk about, when to
Mm,
talk it, what not to say, when to say it, and how we should say it, and when we
come on.
should do it.
Come on.
And so for me, when it comes to men, I always want to have conversations around them not identifying anything creation informs them unless creation is getting its information from the creator.
Come on.
And so what God says about you trumps what man will ever say about you. And so what God has said about you. And then I go from there. And that marks your identity at that point. Your purpose is found in what the creator says about you, as opposed to what creation says about you. And so identity is attack. Men are being attacked on their identity and their purpose.
That's good. And I can definitely testify to that. So, viewers, one of the key things that I love about Brother Ewell is the simple fact that he's been one of the outlets for me over the past 4 years, feels like 5 years, feels like a lifetime, really,
Yeah.
to help me overcome suppressing my emotions. That was one of the key things that I struggled with coming from the church.
Yeah.
And I
Ooh.
know a lot of y'all watching like the church. How does the church, with not you being this big time Christian, not you all the time being in the limelight, not you talking about the Lord all the time, like where does that come from, Corey? And it's amazing how what you just mentioned, how it's important for you to know what your purpose is through your identity in Christ, because otherwise you'll be all over the place
Ooh, yeah.
and you'll develop this anger and frustration. And one thing that I noticed that people quick to identify men as saying that, oh, you find um, the minute a man gets loud in a conversation is he's angry.
Yeah.
And I'm not even angry. I'm just expressing myself. So I want to take a moment and navigate through that, speaking about overcoming suppressing emotions as a man.
Goodness, my goodness. That's heavy. Because that can be so layered and it can look differently depending on the individual, especially if you come from a household where it was beneficial for you to suppress your emotion. And if you ever raise your voice, you will be attacked for it.
Mm,
So it may look different from that individual. From my standpoint, I suppress my emotions because it was communicated to me that if I release my emotions, if I address my emotions, then at that point, I'm no longer considered manly.
come on, come on.
And so I was raised in an environment in which told me if I didn't keep in the things that bothered me and that if I expressed them, I'm not indeed a man, that I would had to learn to suck it up and
Hmm.
continue to perform. And really, without them saying it, they removed my humanity at a young age. And so
Yeah.
now I'm navigating life suppressing the things I feel and having to say I'm fine, even
Hmm.
though I am not. And learning how dangerous that was when I was older, and then getting to an age of learning how to unpack. Suppression, especially in the male community,
Hmm.
is really detrimental because what it tells men is the only gender, right?
Right.
I'm bigender, by the way. I believe in bigender. The only gender that truly does um have the opportunity to express their emotion without backlash is females, women. And
Hmm.
so what happens often is our young black boys, our young men, they are informed to not display their emotions or they're attacked for doing that. They're
Right.
looked as weak for doing that. I've had those conversations, bro. You must be weak.
Hmm.
No, brother, I'm quite strong because I can communicate to you what's
Right.
going on with me as opposed to communicating in violence. Because you're communicating too.
Right.
The difference is that you display it in violence,
Right.
or you're communicating by communicating it with numbing it, right? Because that's what
Right.
men usually do to suppress their emotions. They
Mm-hmm.
numb it, whether that be with lust, whether that be with your whatever your lure is. If
Right.
that's alcohol, is that clubbing, is that smoking, whatever drug of choice, whatever that may be, all you do is display your emotions in that moment. And that's why some of the terms of uh drunk but sober mind come to mind, because
Mm-hmm.
you really get the emotions and
Right.
expressions when they don't feel they have to be guarded, and then they have to be uh intoxicated, because at that point you're no longer caring to hold that guard up. You just want to communicate yourself. You're not
Right.
caring about who feels a certain way. And so you do get sober thoughts, right?
Right.
How however, look what it took to get that. And what does that communicate?
That's true. That's so true. And I think also with that, that resorts to a lot of activity that goes on these days. People not only resorting to, sex and alcohol and drugs and whatnot, but also violence. If you're looking at statistics, the cases for domestic violence are increasing. You know what I'm saying? And folks are
Yeah.
quick to think that it's only females that are getting abused, but there's actually males that are getting abused as well. Could we
Yeah.
take a moment? Let's just address trauma. Okay, you
Mm.
suppressing your emotions, you lashing out physically. Now you're dealing with this mental battle. How does one begin to navigate out of dealing with emotions, physical distress, mental anguish, to seek the spirit
Yeah.
and
Well,
get the answers that they need?
I believe in therapy, and I believe in Jesus and the couch. Jesus
Mm,
and therapy. But you also need this. This is something I don't often hear: community. So I do
that's
think
good.
you need Jesus. I do think you need the couch. I do think you also need community. You need people in your corner who are able to allow you to just be in the moment you need to be.
Mhm,
Especially men. That's why his insecurities was created. His insecurities is a community where you can just vent. You can just be. You can address what you're navigating in a space where you won't be judged,
mhm,
um, a space where you will feel free, a space in which you can say, brother, I'm tired, brother, my job, brother, my relationship, brother, I'm thinking these thoughts, brother,
mhm.
I want to smoke weed, brother, I want to drink right now, brother, I want to jump in them DMs,
Come on.
brother, whatever it may be that you are battling, you have a community in which will navigate with you and say, okay, let's unpack that.
Mhm.
Why do you feel that way? What's going on? What you navigate? How do you feel? Before you do that, before you jump in that DM,
Right.
before you pick up that bottle, before you pick
Mhm.
up that pack, before you do that, what are you navigating? Well, let's talk about it, right?
Right.
I'm not here to
Right.
judge you. Let's talk about it. What's going on inside? And what you begin to discover is the emotions and trauma that usually is connected to wanting to do that thing. A lot of times, trauma is triggered by,
Mhm.
and it's a form of communication.
It is. It is.
So, what's created that trauma has also communicated to you, right?
Right.
And how you communicate back could be beneficial, or it can be a detriment to you. trauma isn't always a decision we get to make. I speak to a
Mm-hmm.
lot of men who navigate trauma based on other people when they weren't, when they felt when they were young and they didn't have the ability to defend themselves.
Right.
However, how we navigate from that trauma is our decision. And so a lot of
Yeah.
times we have to make the choice of, am I going to allow this trauma to dictate my path? Or am I going to overcome this and it's going to be a part of my testimony?
Come on.
The enemy tried to use this trauma to destroy me, to kill me in some situations,
Mm-hmm.
to break me. But I have the choice to use what he meant for bad and turn it into good. I have the choice to make this trauma a tool for testimonies of others. I have the choice to use this trauma and free others from bondage and even strongholds in their minds. I have the choice, but my choice is my choice.
Come on. Come on. So, bro, you said a lot of keywords, and one of the keywords that you said was community. And
Yeah.
community these days, especially when it comes to men, it's very, very important to have a safe space. And oftentimes people say safe spaces all the time, and folks really, really wonder, is this really a safe space? I mean, how do I know for sure that my information is not going to go out? And another keyword that you use before I go to my next question is testimony. Me personally, I stand as a testimony from his insecurities. So those of you that are watching, when I first got in his insecurities, I just want y'all to relive the moment for me just for a second. So before I joined his insecurities, I dealt with an identity issue. And the identity issue was I felt more as a boy than a man. And when it comes down to being an adult, it's a key thing to know that just like the word says, once at one time you thought you grew up as a you thought as a boy, and but now you're an adult. Now you need to be thinking like a man. And I wasn't thinking that. I still was feeling like, oh, I'm this teen boy. You know what I'm saying? I'm just able to do, everything freely. My parents pray for me. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I'll still do, what I need to do. And with his insecurities, I remember when I first pressed that button to send and say, "Hey, I want to join this group." And this full transparency, y'all, I was scared.
Mm,
Like I don't know what. And this was a virtual call, and I'm scared. And I'm seeing brothers on the call and their cameras on. I didn't even want to put my camera on. And it wasn't until the third time I got on and I finally developed the courage to say, Corey, put your camera on. And just hearing from the first episode, from the first gathering to the second gathering to the third gathering of just having that outlet to talk freely and not be judged. And I remember just talking, you know, and I'm like, looking at the screen like, oh yeah, they looking elsewhere. They're probably playing with their phones and everything. And these brothers zoned in. And I'm like, what? And here we fast forward 3, 4 years later, still having that connection, not only to the leader, the founder of his insecurities, though also the other men in the group, and to be able to talk to each other regardless of the time of day it is.
yeah.
So my question goes to you, bro, is what brought you into bringing his insecurities? Because I commend you. Because it's not only community, it's not only a safe space, but it's also a ground for testimonies to lay on solid territory. So,
Yeah.
what brought you to bringing his his insecurities.
Man, I thank you for that. I'm glad you joined. I'm honestly am. Um, his insecurities was created watching the show Greenleaf. I was watching
Hmm.
the show Greenleaf, and there was a part in Greenleaf where the husband was battling sexuality and thoughts, and he went to, I believe it was like a AA meeting. And
Hmm.
when he went to the AA meeting, he was doing that, navigating all of this by himself without the knowledge of his wife because he didn't feel comfortable enough to go to his wife and let her know. And God told me in that moment, you should be creating an atmosphere like that because you need it. And so I created this small group called His Insecurities with the premise of being a community for men and able to unpack the things they cannot tell their spouses. I need to say this to men who are in relationships. You cannot, let me say this with wisdom, you can't reveal everything to your spouse. I know that sounds great. You can't reveal everything to your partner. I know that sounds great. I know it is something that this world will tell you. You don't love that person, you can't reveal everything to them. Some things that you are navigating that your partner can't handle, and it will
Come
create
on.
dysfunction if it's not released in the proper time and moment. It's not to say that you can't say it. It's is it wise to say it in this moment? And
Mhm.
so his insecurities is a atmosphere that allow men to navigate their thoughts and their ideas, the pressures, their concerns in a community in which you are not judged for them. What often happen is you hear, I understand and
Mhm.
I relate to it. Here's
Right.
my story. And what tends to happen often is this. Corey hit it on the head. I've seen, especially when we did our face-to-face meetings, I've seen men get up and walk out. When you start dealing with things that trigger you, and I don't take it personal because I get it.
Mhm.
When you dealing with things that are triggering to you, like abuse and SA, which is sexual assault, when you're dealing with things of being raised without a father, or not hearing the word I love you, or feeling used, or not being heard by your spouse, or the ones that are close to you, or relationships, or going and having to relive the trauma that happened to you when you were a child, and maybe navigating an abusive relationship with a parent. When you hear some of that stuff and it's unpacking, it is tough to deal with. And some of it can be triggering to
It
some
is.
people who are not ready to communicate that. And so I've seen people walk about the group. I've seen people who been quiet for one meeting, you never see them again, and then you kind of communicate. It's like, and they'll tell you honestly, bro, I'm not ready. And so you pray for those people, but it is an atmosphere in which you are free. It allows you to just navigate your thoughts and your ideas with people who can say, I've been here. This is this sounds similar to my story, and I'm glad you shared it. This is how I am continuing to journey through what I am battling. And this may be beneficial to you. If it's not, don't receive it, don't pick it up. But if it is,
Yeah.
catch it.
Just leave it alone.
And it's an atmosphere that helps a lot of men find voices and also find the freedom to say, I'm battling and I need help.
And seeking help is very important because it's like it's one thing when you say you need it, and there's another thing when you go out to seek it. You know what I'm saying? And you can't just say, "Oh, I'm seeking it." You gotta actually take action. So that is one of the things that I did. I saw the group, and I'm like, okay, this is my chance. This is my outlet. And brothers that's watching, by all, and men, just period, that's watching, don't do this alone. Period. Don't do this alone. You are needed. I know this is the spirit talking. Whether you realize it or not, you are needed. You've been dealing with
Yeah.
people constantly making you feel like you are not needed, and you are needed. You just have to find those environments that's going to give you that reminder of how much you are needed. And just like you mentioned earlier, you are not a walking paycheck. There is more
Yeah.
to you than just constantly producing all the time. And I want to go into how important it is for men, just to, whether it's one man or three men, how important it is to stay connected. I feel staying connected is a big thing when it comes to men. Is that we tend to, over one little situation happen, and we don't need to connect anymore. No, we still need each other. Let's talk
Yeah.
into that. Like how important it is to stay connected. Is one thing, you got the help. I'm healed. I'm moving forward. But it's very important to just stay connected. And there's many ways you can stay connected.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I I have a close friend who he told us from the start, listen, man, I might ghost y'all. Cause he never, when you start to understand is most men, especially if they battle rejection,
Hmm.
even a form of friendship is tough.
Right.
It's hard. And so if you're a man that battle rejection, you're used to being isolated because I don't have to hurt in isolation. I don't have the risk of being disappointed in isolation. However, I know that I need community. And so it's okay. It feels free for some men to ghost and just leave that relationship because they're more comfortable with not trusting environments because of rejection. One of the things rejection does is create this perverted look on life that I am supposed to be isolated. I don't want to be disappointed. I don't want that feeling. I don't want to feel that way. And I'm not going to allow you to make me feel that way. So what tends to happen is what men tend to do is they go ghost. So I've had relationship with a friend where he was like, "Listen, I don't want y'all to take this personal, but I'm leaving." And I was like, "You don't have to do that. You can fight that. You can just communicate what the true issue and situation was. The true issue and the true situation is that you don't want to be disappointed. So let's talk about that. And how can we help you in that situation? How can we help you not feel disappointed? How can we help you navigate this season in your life? And another thing you're going to have to do is learn that in order to help people, you're going to have to give them grace, right? Don't take it personal. Someone else flaws. Understand that they have flaws. And it's okay to communicate, hey, brother, how do you navigate this? And are you pushing away because this is natural? Listen, I'm not taking this personal. I understand this is a battle with you. I'm here for you. I'm here to battle with you. But how does that look?
That makes perfect sense, bro. Because you don't want to be in this battle by yourself. You know what I'm saying?
No.
You thinking, oh, all right, I'm it's okay, but it's really not okay. It's really not. So let's go for a second and go into those books.
Yes.
Um, how can people connect with these books? Like, how can they access them? Give us what brought you into your very first book, because there's some that's watching, that's people like me want to write, and we don't even know where to begin.
Man,
So help us
listen,
navigate through that.
I need to get back into it. But my very first book was called Kingdom Memoirs. And it's just was memoirs of different situation and thoughts and ideas on different things I was encountering at that moment. My first book was started at my sister-in-law's baby shower. At the actually in the book I say that I'm creating this book
Hmm.
from the start of my sister's baby shower. The reason why I'm communicating that to you is to let you know, just go.
Right.
Just do it. My first book was just done from, I'll be honest, Holy Spirit said, you've already written a book. Most of your chapters are on Facebook. So what I did was I went to Facebook, and all the things that I would talk about, certain situations and certain conversations I was having, I initiated from a post, and I just expounded on it. When it came to Kingdom Memoirs, this is the post, and I expounded on the post, and it became a book. So that lets you know that I'm a writer, that I took all of this information that I've already had created, and I began to expound on those particular topics. And it ended up being my first book. So my first book are really just different memoirs, different things that I collectively were navigating in my walk with Christ, and making sense of it, making thought processes of it, how to navigate these things. And that was my first book. With my second book, it was more strategic because it had more of a isolated concept. So it wasn't just various memoirs. My second book is Church Hurt Developed Me. So I broke down hurt, how it looked from me from a personal standpoint, and then how did I gain strength from a biblical standpoint. Could I relate to the Bible dealing with hurt, and who do I see in the Bible navigate hurt as well, and what did they do based on that hurt? And there were just, it helped me navigate the church hurt I was going through. So while writing this book, I'm navigating church hurt, and I'm finding the resources, I'm finding the voice, I'm finding the healing through writing this book from the Bible. So at the same time I'm writing, God's healing me. I'm studying how to talk about hurt, and at the same time he healing.
Damn, that's deep.
Confront my hurt. Confront it the way Jesus would confront it, the way that I was seeing Gideon confront it, the way I was seeing Abraham and Sarah confront it, the same way I would see Paul confront it, the same way I would see all these people confront hurt, I would confront it. And what it made me do is point to myself too. And my hurt and say, hey, to my hurt. And not only are there layers, let's see if I can pull back from it. Love, type of love. Because a form of hurt is us identifying we love you
Mhm.
for loves. Question. Could it be? Could your hurt be based on your love, which is love? Philo love. and not an ego. Eros love. Eros is romantic. Philos is brotherly, sisterly.
Mm-hmm.
So could you have hurt yourself because you have corrupted the love of Philos with Eros?
Sheesh.
Perfect love. Could have been that love. And you corrupted it with trying to put it in a different love. Could you be the catalyst for your hurt? So we talk about it. And it made me discover some things that I've been putting people in different relationships in different places and then being upset about that. Or could it be this? I created expectations of this person I wasn't communicating, and they hurt me based on the expectations I never voiced.
Come on. Oh,
Learn how to communicate what I expect, and then check my hurt if I didn't communicate it. So that was the second book. So the second book is more strategic. Now my third one is called It's on its way. I'm writing as we speak. It's called Distraction of Fear. What God has been battling me with these last couple of years, with the impact of fear on my life and
mm-hmm.
how it has really dictated what I do, how I do it, when I do it. And so I'm confronted with, yo, this thing is really just a distraction more than it's a manifestation.
Come on.
And I then start to ask the question of, what if I didn't allow myself to be distracted by this? What could I all accomplish? How many books could I have written? How many places could I travel? How many relationships that could have been birthed? What rooms could be open if I don't allow this distraction called fear to dictate my decision making?
Sheesh. Well, we definitely looking forward to that third book. I know it's gonna be many that's gonna try to get a hold of the first and second book. Though I also want to expound on your music, bro. Like your music is community majorly. Where does this writing come from? Like, bro, you have the full package from his insecurities to J. Crew collection to your books to music. What is it like being an instrument in the music industry on the Christian level? Because there's a lot of folks that think
A lot.
that just
That's
because
a
you're
lot.
doing Christian rap, that you cannot make an impact or influence. Let's
You
talk
gotta.
about
I love that question. So you gotta ask yourself a real tough question. Um, why? For me, I was doing music before I became a Christian. I did music, and I had looks from No Limit, desires to be on Cash Money, but I had looks from No Limit, right?
for the 99 and the 2000. I got it.
Come on, talking about that third wave of No Limit, where it was Drummer Boy, Hallelujah.
Okay. Got it.
I was rapping with those cats, but um, for me, music has always been a way I can voice myself. That's
Mm-hmm.
how I learned. That's how I learned to share my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't speak to people, so I will write music. It was really started off as poetry, but I will write my emotions down, and I will write it so much that I just became good at just writing music, right? So it
Right.
started that way. Um, and it still is that, to a lot of extent. It's just more now Holy Spirit lead me to write. But I started in a from a secular standpoint. I stopped um wanting to be an artist because I wanted to stop everything that kept me away from God. And music for me was an idol. And I mean that.
Mm-hmm.
Music, especially hip hop, it was an idol for me. Like, I read the source, Double XL. I know y'all don't know about these magazines, Murder Dog, magazines like that. Go to hip hop blogs.
Mm-hmm.
That was religiously done for me. I used to listen to
Mm-hmm.
every type of music you can listen to. and I found my identity. That's that word again.
Come
I
on.
found my identity in music. I found my bravado, my voice, my pride with listening to a Jay-Z or a Lil Wayne or Ja Rule. I found my voice in music. I begin to take on their characteristics because that's where the identity was. I began to take on
Mm,
their characteristics and it worked. It gave me this bravado. It gave me this confidence. Now I can be this person as opposed to you.
right.
And once I came to Christ, I had a real conversation with myself where I looked in the mirror and I said, who am I?
Come on. That's good.
And because of that, I was like, God, I never want to do this again. Because my life, my identity, ideology was all based on music, like hip hop. And
Hmm.
I did not want anything to get that place that I was given to God. So I was like, I wasn't gonna do it. It wasn't until months later,
Hmm.
God said, son, I never told you to stop. That was a choice you made because you thought it glorified me. I
Wow.
want you to use it for my glory. This is a gift I gave you. I give gifts unrepentant.
Come on. Come on.
Use this gift for my glory. And since then, that has been my purpose. My purpose in doing music is not to get huge record deals or get um admiration from the world. That's just not my desire. My desire is to minister through my music for his glory. And
Right.
so when I picked it back up, I meant that. you
Hmm.
know,
Right.
I really did mean that. And so that is always my inspiration on why I do music. I do it to minister to people. I do it to speak to the person who definitely needs a word from God. And they may not know that it can be done in rap.
Right.
But so I do music from that position. I really am ministering to people. My songs, they always going to lead you back to Jesus. I give you my emotions, but it
Hmm.
will always lead back to Jesus. Even the songs that talks about my death of my father, the death of my nephew, the streets of Baton Rouge, it's going to lead you back to the solution, which is Christ Jesus. And
Hmm.
so I I really do communicate in order to help and encourage and empower people to keep moving and to keep going or to find Jesus.
So, bro, with all your outlets, you really helping everyone, no matter which outlet they choose, overcome fear. And within that, you helping them find purpose. To
Yeah.
to anyone that's watching right now, that's at the fork of the road with trying to determine which route to embrace their spiritual gifts, what wisdom do you have for that individual to come out of that fear?
I appreciate that question. To come out that fear, the first thing I would tell you is God isn't giving that to you. He's
Come
not
on.
giving you the fear to walk into purpose. And that my prayer is you embrace that you have fear and allow it to lead you to God. Allow it to lead you to God. It's okay to say, I have fear.
Hmm.
We just know God didn't give it to you. And when I say it's okay to have fear, I mean that from the position of acknowledgement. Acknowledgement. It's okay to acknowledge I have this fear.
Right.
God didn't give this to me. He gave me power, love, and sound mind.
Come on. Come on.
But I know that I'm battling this fear. So how do I get that power, love, and sound mind now? How do I embrace that? I will tell you to allow that fear to not be the distraction that keep you from God. And what you will
That's good.
realize is that it will no longer be fear. It will be
Come on.
faith.
Come on.
So my prayer is definitely is that you allow that fear to lead you to him. To use your spiritual gifts, God is going to do that. Trust him. You don't have to put the pressure on yourself. to figure out how to use your gifts.
Mm. Come on.
God can use your gifts in any
Anytime.
place,
Anytime.
any position.
Yeah.
I've used spiritual gifts at my job. I've used spiritual gifts at in an airport. I've used spiritual gifts speaking to my mother. I've used spiritual gifts in some very awkward places. Allow
Mm.
God to figure that out for you. Decide to allow him to use you and allow him to use the spiritual gifts inside you in conjunction with the Holy Spirit.
Man.
God is your
He,
guide, and he's your director. And once you do that, he will begin to provide you desires in your heart that will shape you how to use your gift. He will start uprooting purposes and things that you laid dormant. When you were a kid, you start to dream again and start to dream big, and you be like, I thought this was dead.
come
And you
on.
realize that he was just waiting for you to say yes.
Yes, Lord.
He was just waiting for
Uh,
you to say, okay, I trust you. And he will begin to birth things inside of you that you really didn't think you wanted to do. He's going to cultivate those spiritual gifts inside of you. See, God took a young man who was a nerd in the hood who battled identity, so he looked to music, but he always loved to write
come on. Come on. Come on.
ways. And in my journey, he took me to doing graphic design
Mm-hmm.
in Houston. And then he took me to come back to Baton Rouge. I still want to, at this point, I want to be a rapper. He took that and said, okay, I'm going to utilize this. He made me have connection with people and artists that I will use in the future. He made me have connection with people that I no longer have connection with, but he took that desire for music that I had passion for to lead me back to him.
Yeah. He
To
made it your
lead me back
story.
to him.
He made it part of your story, bro. All part of your
It's a
story.
part of the story now. And now it's what I wanted to do for the world is doing it for the kingdom.
Come on.
But
Come
who
on.
would have thought the one who wanted to be a rapper and wanted the glitz and glamour, my only desire, my only dream was having a Bentley by 26. Who would
Mm-hmm.
think that person would then become a pastor and an author? Who would think that person would then become a founder of a organization to help men with their mental health?
Come
Who would think
on.
that person can call himself a doctor and get a doctorate in biblical psychology? Who would think that person will want a master and bachelor's in religious studies? Who would think that person will want that stuff? Because he just wanted a Bentley at 26.
Come on. And he's giving you a whole lot more. Whole lot more. Bro,
More.
you're on target with in reference to the childhood gifts. And the reason why I'm saying that is because just this podcast alone is me operating in my spiritual gifts. And let me tell you why, how I can relate to exactly what you're saying. Whenever I graduated high school, my biggest aspiration was to become a news reporter. That's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be that guy at the desk giving the news and everything. And I was in college. I was like, okay, everything, but at the same time, I'm partying. I'm for the streets. Look, we're gonna keep it 100. I'm for the streets. And at the same time, when I was in school, I was all in the church. I mean, I was going to BTU. That's going all the way back. That's Bible training unit. I don't know about it. My Baptist folk, y'all know what I'm talking about. I was youth president. I was liturgical dancing, the whole nine, bro, doing it all. Though when I got out of high school, I was like, man, I don't want to do that no more. I want to live life like everybody else, be free or whatnot. And I remember mid-20s, the Lord was like, mm-mm. No, 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 no. This is not what I got you here for. You
Yeah.
have all of these aspirations. I remember that day like it was yesterday. He was like, when it came down, because I have two brands. And I remember the first brand, Spoken Red, he was like, your job is to work with people, to get people into their purpose, getting them out of that box. And then here it comes with To Be Frank. Frank, I'm like, Lord, I've been doing Spoken Red What's up with this? And he said, who placed limits on you? I didn't place that on you. Who placed
Yeah.
limits on you? And to see you with all of these different avenues and now seeing all these different avenues that I'm doing, he's saying, Corey, you saw it as this way, but I see it
Mhm.
as this way, and I'm going to have you walk in that way. And
Yeah.
walking in his way is a whole lot better than walking in the flesh way. I mean, much, 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 much better, you know.
Yeah.
And just like I mentioned, just in these 4 years alone, identifying who I am in him is a whole lot better than identifying who I was in them. Because I find that people get that mixed up where they rely to social media and just people opinions and whatnot to determine who they are. And saying all that to say, thank you for igniting, thank you for mentioning the whole childhood aspect. But what I really want to get is, brother, talk to 13-year-old you right now. What would you
Good.
tell 13-year-old you right now?
I would tell 13-year-old you'll never stop dreaming. I would tell 13-year-old Yule to continue to write and don't let people shape your destiny.
Come on.
Be bold, be courageous, and be a leader. Don't be okay with your voice being different because it's going to be needed. And what it's
Mm,
going to shape is people following you and being mentored by you. They enjoy your difference, and it's not a weapon, and it's not you being, my goodness, it's not you being weird. It's not you being strange. It's not you being rejected, but they're going to accept you because you're not afraid to vocalize what most are afraid to say. Continue to stand as being a person that loves God. Continue to stand as even a black sheep of your family because you're going to lead them one day. You're going to
mm.
guide them one day, and you're going to inspire them one day. I know it's tough. I know you feel alone and you're isolated, but I'm with you and I'm growing and shaping you. You are built and equipped for this. And don't let anyone tell you different. Don't you settle your voice for acceptance from those who only tolerate you. Continue to grow, continue to learn, continue to speak, continue to write.
Man, I felt that to my core. You got me holding tears over here. Woo!
I am too. Woo.
Woo! I felt that with every fiber of my being. Jesus. Oof. Some all on that. All over it. Bro, whether you realize it or not, you are a walking legacy. And I want to commend you publicly to the world to
Thank
let you know how much you are a living legend. You really are. You are an inspiration to me. You are a mentor to me. You're just everything. And I thank God for that in you. I thank you for you, period.
thank you.
And before we even wrap this podcast episode up, because Lord, this is just, who, this is the one right here. Man, I could just run. With all the hats that you wear and all the time you pour out to everybody else, how does you have self-care? Because one of the
Mm,
key things that I push with everybody is self-care is important. I don't care how many hats you have, whether you have hats at all. Self-care is important because in order to love yourself, I'm gonna keep on riding this aspect over and over. You must, in order to love yourself wholeheartedly, you must love yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And in order to do those four, you gotta have self-care. So how does you have self-care?
First and foremost, I will tell every person to do this. Take time each day just for you. You're going to have to, you may have to sacrifice some sleep. You may have to
Mm-hmm.
sacrifice some entertainment, but take time each day to take care of you. So self-care for me daily. Now it may change on the weekend because the weekend may be it's more not structured depending on
Mm-hmm.
the activity. But self-care for me usually looks like I wake up an hour before my family gets up.
Mm-hmm.
I spend time with God. Hour. So
Come on.
that's I read the Bible. I have a audio book I'm listening to now to learn about leadership that sharpen my tools. I read a devotional and I pick up at least one book and read at least 5 or 10 pages. I pray, I
That's
listen to music, and I'm meditating within that hour for focus. After the day is done for me, usually I go to the gym. So I may spend an hour or such in a gym, just working out, clearing my mind. It's a form of self-care for me. I engage with my family throughout this time, of course. And then when it's nighttime, I try to wind down with at least 30 minutes of reading. All of
mm,
that looks differently. Now it looks different on different days. So if a weekend, it may look differently because I may be outside, it may be gardening, it may be cutting grass. That's a form of self-care for me. I may
mm-hmm.
walk, I may do some jogging, I may do some jump roping. It may differently, but I'm going to have some time in that day a form of self-care for me. I love community, so a form of self-care for me is enjoying people, talking, communicating. So that's a form of self-care for me as well. Being around people I can be myself with.
Right.
That's a
That's
form of self-care for me. And so even though I have all of these hats, I create time in which it does not feel a burden for the things I do. So there's days I do certain things and days I don't, right? In order to
right.
give myself the ability to not feel pressured into just doing. And also it creates balance. And I pray for men who don't have balance. I pray for
Mm,
men who definitely they feel like they got to strive. I just talked to a dear brother today and he's navigating some burnout and it's I know why, no
mm-hmm.
balance. And
Right.
so I'm praying for people who need new balance in the season they're in. It's okay to do more, but also ask God to give you new balance for the new season that you're operating in. Because there has to be moments where you can stop.
Yeah.
If you just going, I don't care what it is. If you're just going, it's not in the will of God. If Jesus consistently stopped, pause to be with his Father and
Mm,
rest, why wouldn't you think you should do it? If
come on.
God rested on the seventh, why don't you think you should be doing that?
Come on.
There's purpose behind balance. There's purpose behind resting. And there's purpose behind caring for yourself. Too many people are pouring from an empty jug,
Come
and they
on. Come on.
trying to keep doing it in a rat race. When you ask yourself why you're doing it, the question I usually hear, I want to be successful, I want to be prosperous. But at what cost?
Right.
At what cost? Does it cost your mind to do that? If it does, brother, your God may be mammon.
That's good.
So you may
That's
have to recalibrate your why, right? And so
right.
every day, stop and do something for you that will give you a new outlook, and peace for that day.
Well, y'all. Oh, I told y'all at the beginning, he got the juice. It's the truth. He got the juice. He really has the juice. On behalf of the To Be Frank fam, bro, we can't thank you
Listen,
enough
listen.
for being on this episode. This episode blessed me entirely. I'm not trying to pick favorites. I'm not, but man, this has to be one of my top. Oh, this has to be one of my top. My goodness. So before we close out, how can people stay connected with you? How can they follow you? And y'all, he has a podcast too. And I need y'all to listen to his podcast too, because the
Absolutely.
series he got going on right now, oof, baby, oof, fire
You
does
can
fire.
You can catch me Facebook. It's my name, Ewell Netter, Netter. It's the same on Instagram as well. On Twitter, I believe it's the same as well. It's my name. My artist, it's my name. I made it real easy for you. From music, it's my name. So you can go on Apple, Spotify, wherever you download, you get your music from, and type in my name. You want Bandcamp? I got some gems on there that's not on Spotify and your Apples. It's my name, Ewellnetter. And wherever
Yo,
I am connected to, I will have a link to J. Crew.
yo, follow, support. Let's get you a number one on everything, and
Every
be on the
one of them.
lookout, for that new book. Because that's gonna be the one. That's the award winner right there. Get ready.
New York,
Y'all heard it
New York
first. That award
bestseller.
winner right there. Come on. Don't sleep. Don't talk about you don't read no books. You need to be reading some books and stop scrolling on that phone all day long. Get some knowledge up in that mind.
Come on,
Get
come
it
on.
together. So, but frankly speaking, it had to be said. Is your boy Corey J. That's a wrap for this episode. We'll see y'all in the next one. Subscribe, share. You know what to do. Peace.
But